And our experts who come on next, they're going to be discussing how this technology can redefine industry standards and also drive next level innovation. And our moderator for this session is making a return to the stage. We've had him on once before, but please welcome Ben Weiss, Dubai correspondent for DL News, and of course, his panel of guests.
Hello. I'm back again. So my name is Ben Weiss. I am the Dubai correspondent for DL News. It's this newer crypto outlet. I used to write for Fortune magazine. And I think kind of to get things started before we start talking about supply chains and all of that goodness is to maybe go down this chain of lovely panelists and have people introduce themselves. So I'll start with Ali.
Hi. Very high. The big hi. My name is Ali. I'm the group CIO of a public listed group. We are an interior contractor. I've done Burj Al Arab, Burj Khalifa, Atlantis, Flame Towers in Baku, Sun and Sand in Singapore, Fairmont everywhere, etc. We have also a group doing any retail, high-end retail like Dolce & Gabbana, Chanel, Apple Store, the interior of these shops. And we have a group which doing interior of super yacht and private jet. And I'm the CIO of this group. We are public listed, as I said. Nice to be part of the panel.
Okay, Sergi.
So from a big company to a small one. So I'm Sergi Martin, Managing Director of Web3 Plastics. And what we do actually is we validate the plastic that has been collected and recycled all over the world. So we have been in game for 5 years. We are not that big, yeah. So we 5 years and everything is working smooth now. I will speak a little bit later. Thank you.
Okay, Jürgen.
My name is Jürgen. I'm the CEO of Disruptive Elements. I think a smaller company than your ones. We are a digital innovation company focusing since years on emerging technologies. And doing a lot of stuff in the Web3 space, especially for the industry, especially for the steel industry.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm glad to be up here with everyone. So I think I want to start things off pretty simply, like blockchain, supply chain. It's probably a review for everybody here, but I thought it'd be useful to kind of set the stage, so to speak, and have people, maybe a couple of you can tell me actually like why blockchain is useful for logistics. I don't know who is the most eager.
Okay, I just want to say, first of all, I'm not from a IT industry. I'm from construction industry. We are a corporate, and whenever we're going to use any solution, it has to make sense. The business doesn't care whether I'm using blockchain or centralized database or AI or whatever. The business care at the end of the day is the revenue, the bottom line, which is the profits, and whatever technology that really can solve a real problem, as all the panels was talking, then this is the technology for us. So in supply chain, our bread and butter in contracting business is a supply chain. So we have a huge supply chain in several countries, across several countries and across several industries as well. And we have several problems at the moment with the existing technology before blockchain. One of these problems is security. You are dealing with huge virtual suppliers all over the world. Many suppliers are in Asia, in China, in a different part of the world, and you are making multi-million-dollar orders for construction material, right? Interior material, marbles, tiles, etc. And during the process of the procurement, there are a lot of hurdles, there are a lot of risk, any hackers can jump in. So the authenticity of the supplier is one of the big question marks.
So specifically, like, if I wanted to be a hacker, I could just go in and say like, oh yeah, I'm going to give you $2 million in lumber, and then
and now
you wait for the delivery date, and nothing shows up.
not only this, but with AI now, the bad actors are using a lot of advanced technology where during the process of the procurement, somebody can jump in and a huge amount of money might be transferred to the wrong bank accounts. We invested a lot heavily.
How does that happen? Like,
somebody might say, well, I'm identity, taking the identity and saying I'm the supplier who's supposed to deliver this material to that site or to that hotel, and I change the bank account, and that's happening every day.
So it's like somebody goes up to you and you already have a deal in place between two.
I'm dealing with you, and then somebody came and take your identity.
Then Jürgen comes in and he's like, actually, it's me, and then
I am Ben, and but I changed my bank account, for example.
Yeah.
That's happened repeatedly many times in our organization. We have invested heavily in cybersecurity, but still, always you have a problem with the human. We talk about social engineering, but this is not our topic today. But we have a huge awareness programs, and we are investing heavily to educate the people, because there is no technology that can fill this gap, which is how I can make sure that the authenticity of these subcontractor, not only suppliers, it's a huge ecosystem. And another thing which came also to our...
And maybe I'll stop you there. And so, okay, like the first is like, authenticity of people,
correct,
a procurement, basically. Like, making sure that when someone says they're going to do something, they actually do it, and it's not, money's not going to a different party or something like that. I'd love to, ping it to either Jürgen or Sergi, kind of like, what are other applications that you're seeing beyond just like authenticating or verifying that a person is exactly who they say they are?
So maybe I talk a little bit about our specific case on that. So we have in this, as I said, we work with the steel industry, and we have one customer, and their biggest problem at the moment is they want to sell green steel, so steel with low CO2 emissions. And if you look at steel, if you have green steel or gray steel, it's always the same thing. So you can build the same thing at the end with the green steel or with the let's say, old gray steel. And there's a lot of fraud now in the whole environment. So because if you look how the whole thing is running at the moment, you get your charger of metal is delivered. Then you get a PDF with certificate on it, and everyone knows what you can do with a PDF. And the figures are simple to change, and that's what happens in the industry. So
is it basically like a chain of custody thing where it's like
yes,
you're trying to, one person gives steel to another party, which gives it to another party, and you're trying to verify that it's the same steel all along.
Yeah, because there's a huge business case in that. So one example is, so Microsoft asks Retail to deliver 4,000 racks for computers. And Microsoft asks then Retail, as a company who delivers that, what is the CO2 footprint of these racks you deliver? And you have to prove that is the case. And that's why we need a blockchain-based solution on that, because Microsoft is not happy to see a PDF or something like that. So that's how we think of that.
I mean, it goes back to verifiability, but like in a different context, right? Like, in this context, you're having like materials move among, from many different parties. And Ali's context, it's like verifying, even that initial transaction, between a subcontractor, a contractor, and a company. Sergi, is there anything else we're missing here?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say that that's exactly what we do, but with plastic. So you're talking about chain of custody.
Right.
So we bring transparency and accountability to the sustainability supply chain. We issue our own NFTs, so they are, of course, transparent and traceable and immutable because they are on blockchain, and companies can prove that they have collected and recycled the plastic properly. In some cases, they use it just for marketing, but in others, they use it for laws. In Europe, We have some laws that we're not going to speak today about them, but
we could speak today. That's
Yeah.
we
no,
wanted
but
to.
I have a masterclass tomorrow about the
gotcha.
same.
Okay. We won't interrupt your masterclass. Cool. I mean, okay. So we know that there are use cases, or at least there are proffered use cases, right, for help blockchain. But as someone who's kind of a representative of the public in some ways, I'm a journalist. I'm not an industry like you guys. I've heard the idea of supply chain blockchain for supply chain as a narrative that has been around for at least the 3 or so years that I've been covering crypto, probably much longer. But from the public's perspective, I'm not seeing, it's not like the killer app, or it's not the use case that everyone's talking about as actually like really charging things forward, making a use case to VCs, to investors as like, this is why we need this technology. Why do I have that impression? Is it the wrong impression? And kind of maybe, I don't know, Ali seems
I think there are a lot. It's like, I think we are like the early 90s for the internet. So the internet was there. We don't know that later on we're going to have e-commerce coming in, and we're going to use this Play-Doh to really form a big economy. And it's the same stage we are in blockchain. There are a lot of real cases, but as I said earlier, it needs really to make sense. It needs really to solve one problem.
But specifically though with supply chain, though, I mean, like maybe supply chains are a microcosm of the macrocosm of like how we're talking about blockchains, but like.
Right.
Is it just because we're in the beginning, is what you're saying?
Right. No, but there are several reasons. But for example, I think IBM and Walmart, we know that this is a real case. We know also in the region there is oil and gas, TriStar. They have a real multi-million-dollar implementation for for their supply chain and logistic moving and shifting the oil from within the region. I think there is another point which I was about to highlight, which what Jorgen have mentioned, which is the ESG. I think as a public listed company, now we have to start in 2027 to report to the stock market the ESG report, the origin of each of the materials. So we do have a blockchain cases in our group, which is a metaverse. We have used 2 metaverses, and in the metaverse, we have to show the client basically how the project gonna look like, instead of a mock-up, instead of building a physical mock-up.
Construction in the metaverse?
Yeah, construction. I'm from construction.
So you're building buildings.
So we are, okay, let me flashback. So we usually used to build a physical mock-up for somebody from Italy or somebody from London to come and say, well, this carpet match the ceiling, or the curtain doesn't really fit with this design, etc. And this used to consume a lot of energy, a lot of time, and a lot of resources, especially that these mock-up used to be destroyed and not used after the approval and the signature happened. So it's just built, waste of money for a few hours, somebody to come and said, thumbs up, approve. And also, we started this before the blockchain concept, when it's like VR and AR was there. We participated in Monaco Bot Show and in Dubai Bot Show, showing cases what we can do. And then later on, we built metaverses on that. And in the metaverse, I can even identify and say, what is the source of this material? I not just only show you the color and the design, but I also can tell you, well, this is a fabric, German leather, and the source of this fabric is from this region. This is the whole chain from where I'm gonna bring this fabric. So you don't just see the color, you don't just see what the physical mock-up used to do, but you have an expert who can explain to you the origin of this material. This carpet is coming from Thailand, it's a woof, etc., etc., etc.
I guess so it seems like kind of a takeaway, maybe Sergey or Jürgen, you can kind of jump in here, is that there are use cases that people are actually, using blockchain for supply chain. It's not just kind of a theoretical or maybe a hypothetical or proof of even concept. Is that correct? Like it's beyond just proof of concept now. It's actually happening like in kind of enterprise level, situations, or am I misunderstanding something?
I would say we are at the it's a step to go to bring a lot of more real life supply chain projects on the ground. So what we are doing, we are also in that situation. We are doing a lot of proof of concepts with our customers. We come from this innovation side, we come from this user side, and but if you have a look in the pharma industry, so Merck is doing a lot in that area. Bayer is doing a lot in that area. And of course, the automotive industry is going also this direction, but it needs a lot of. It's not a technical thing from my point of view at the moment.
Correct.
It's more. It's a government. It's a onboarding of people. It's
adoption.
a political. It's a role concept thing. It's so what hinders a lot. So technology-wise, everything is here, but. So like our steel thing, so
maturity maybe is the maturity of the whole industry is still not there.
It's-
Whether
I
lack
mean,
of
so basically we're in proof of concept phase still.
correct, but there is lack of resources. Like you need trustworthy vendors and resources who can lead these initiatives.
Like vendors for blockchain tech.
Absolutely, and also the regulation and governance to really make sure that this will not really go out of.
Sorry. Of course, it needs adoption, but as when you open a new company, you have to be on the market a certain amount of time to succeed. Imagine trying to change the whole world with something. So it will take time.
Yeah. I mean,
That's it. I mean, is that
the
easy
shortest
for me?
response, but the pithiest. I guess. Do you think another question I was when I was wondering about like why am I not hearing about blockchain for supply chain being kind of one of the leading cases or being like adopting. So one of the reasons it seems like obviously is proof of concept, right?
Yeah.
We're still in the proof of concept phase for a lot of things. Ali, maybe you.
I will say it. There is no pressing need at the moment as an organization, as a business. I don't really see there is a real pressing need worth my money and my investment. Okay. So if it's working, keep it working. But I think it's coming. As I said, the ESG, for example, when I'm going to start reporting to the stock market every year, an ESG, and I'm going to really start putting the origin of each supply chain of each subcontractor and supplier I'm dealing with, and like FATF, for example, have put a lot for money laundering, for example. I need to make sure I'm not breaking any rules. The sanctioned countries, the bad actors are all eliminated in my supply chain. That's in a manual way, in traditional way, will be impossible. I need to have a new technology like blockchain.
So it's good to have in your back pocket, but it's
right.
but it's not necessarily you're using it like in production scale right now. I guess another thing I'm wondering from the public perspective is that like, supply chains are really boring. Like, I'm sorry, but they're like, it's hard to write about them. It's like no one wants to read about where timber is going, right? But they're incredibly important, obviously. So maybe the public doesn't hear about it as much, just because it's much more like a B2B, business to business type of thing that's happening, as opposed to like a user checking the provenance and like being able to verify that their wine is actually the right wine that they that is set on the bottle. Like, is that also, I guess, a leading question? But is that also another reason that it's often more of like a private enterprise solution rather than like a public-facing solution? I don't know if you have any of you guys want to. Maybe I'm speaking rather than actually asking questions.
I don't have any answer for that. I cannot give you an answer because I'm not sure. So the thing is, on our way to see it, you said that right now at this moment companies are not using blockchain on supply chain, but we do. So it's all of the companies based on that. So
it's more a public perspective.
Yeah, public. I don't know.
I think in corporate world, supply chain is very important topic. Yeah. Maybe for normal people who's not from the industry, supply chain, maybe it's a kind of jargon or it's not very important topic. As far as I order my item in Amazon and it's reached my doorstep, I don't care what's happened behind that. But as I said, from a corporate perspective, I'm responsible to make sure I'm dealing with genuine people, with authentic material, with not breaking any rule and not being exposed to any compliance issues.
Gotcha. This one question also I was thinking of was the idea that like essentially maybe blockchain for supply chain is more important for the corporate customers. All of you guys seem much more in the corporate realm. One thing I was wondering about is that, do you think that retail consumers, like let's say you're buying wine or buying, maybe for Sergi, an example would be like I buy a shirt or something. I want to know that it's actually recycled plastic and and have its chain of custody in that way. Do people actually care about that? Like, do you think there is actually a market for that, or is it more on the corporate side that you guys think that exists?
I have the answer for that, but if you want to go, it's okay.
Yeah, I have two views on that thing. So for a customer. For an end customer, they never want to hear the word blockchain or something like that. They only want to have a service. They want to see where is the stuff coming, is there child work in it, and all these things. So blockchain makes sense beneath, but not in the communication. With the retailers, I think you are better in that than me. They have to there will be, based on regulation, there will be a state where they have to state what is it made of, where is it coming from. SDG reporting, like you said, they have to do that. Everyone has to do that, and maybe you do that with paperwork and write it down with a pencil, or you use the digital infrastructure, what it is, and generate it more or less automatically or faster. So that's. But sorry.
No, of course. So the thing is, the answer for that question is yes. Mm-hmm. Almost in Spain, I'm from Spain. So there, people care about where the bottle of plastic has came from, and for example, with our solution, of course, we can provide that they are that they are legit. No, so we are preventing greenwashing, where companies may claim that they are sustainable, but they are actually not.
Right.
So yeah.
I think nowadays you are not just responsible for your subcontractor, but your subcontractor. So the whole chain of the ecosystem that you are dealing with, you are responsible that all of them are, for example, having the check mark of all these ESGs and authenticity and sustainability KPIs. They fulfill all these conditions. So it's not just the direct contact, but even the whole ecosystem.
But I guess for more savvy corporate customers or people with smart developers and who are more experienced with dealing with like emerging technology, like they would care more that something's decentralized. I guess Sergi, like why do we need to do why for me, if I'm looking at this bottle of water, do you think customers really care that like that there's a chain of custody that's on a decentralized database versus a centralized database?
Yeah, so the trust. You trust on blockchain because when you are into blockchain or when you start learning about blockchain, you know that is all the data there is it has his integrity because it's immutable. It's trustable, transparent, and immutable. So the trust, you trust on companies that are on blockchain for their supply chain, no? Because you understand that they are not being modified by a human or by someone that wants to just check another box, and that's a completely different stuff.
I guess I'm thinking of my mom, right? My mom is now 70, and I think of her, and she's probably not going to be like, oh, this is certified by a verifiable blockchain when I look at my plastic water bottle. So I mean, she'll probably care if there's a company that says that it's certified, but she doesn't necessarily care about the method. That's maybe my point. And
I think that's now. I think going forward, it's not going to be optional. I think, and it's going to be
so my mom will
cascaded.
She'll have to learn.
Maybe she will not, but I think all of us, or the supplier who is providing or who is buying this bottle, they will care. Otherwise, they will have fine. I think it's gonna be cascaded and it's gonna be invaded all our society and our businesses going forward. Now it's not not everywhere it's enforced, but going forward, I think, and doing it manually will be impossible. As I said, it's not just the direct supplier. It's the whole ecosystem, and you need to have a technology that can tell you the whole chain from where this material or from where this item have been manufactured, how it's moved, who was the mediators on the way. Yeah.
And
Sergey,
also,
you wanted to, or
sorry.
Jürgen, well,
Go,
you
go.
guys
No,
are
no,
going,
you first.
Okay. So, and also, you're talking about your mom. Do you have any sibling or child or small one?
I have a brother. He's 36.
36. Okay. So yeah, from 20 to 36, people are getting more conscious. So about this.
About blockchain or about like the.
No, about the verifying where the things are coming from.
Gotcha.
All of the movement of climate change leads you to verification. See, if you verificate everything, if you can have the proof that where the things have come from, and how many, for example, how many plastics you've recollected, by who, where, you know where you have data to know how to manage things to get it better. So if you look for an older person, I don't want to bother anyone.
Thank you very much.
Maybe the point of view are different, of course, but you don't have to target to one age. You have to target to everyone, or to the people who cares about it.
Jürgen, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, I would like to address your old mother, 70 years old mother. So, and I like this old expression from Google, don't be evil, and then we can say can't be evil. And to your mother, she will get a sign. It's proved. It's not relevant for her how it is proved, but for the younger generation, that will be relevant. That it's really secured and it can't be fraud in that system. And that's what I strongly believe in from the beginning. When I first heard about blockchain, that was really the innovation for me in that thing.
So it's more like telling people, like, for retail or for mom and pop shops, right? For them to actually care that something's proved and that there's a chain of custody on blockchain, they almost have to know about blockchain first to really buy into that.
Again, with the argument that this is going to be enforced by government. This not your mom and dad doesn't care, and they will still not care. But the decision maker will care, and the regulator will care. And that's going to come from the top, As an end user, I don't really care, and I don't have enough money. I will search for the cheapest item ever. That's what I do care. But the retailer and the government who put the regulation, they will do care.
Gotcha. And kind of that connects pretty naturally to one of my other questions, which is, what we don't often hear about regulation. I mean, in crypto, obviously, we always hear about regulation. That is the story, right? Especially what's happening with Gary Gensler, what's happening with the SEC. But we don't often hear about regulation with supply chain, right?
Right.
And I'm curious, all of you guys are trying to do proof of concepts, real world applications of using this technology for, whether it's steel, whether it's construction, whether it's plastics, like, what are some of are you having conversations with governments about that? Is regulation even relevant because you might be using private, blockchains?
Okay, let me go back a bit. I mean, we operate in Europe, and GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, is one of the things that we have to be comply with all the time. And it's not only our data, but our whole data of our employees, our client, our subcontractor, subcontractor, and everybody included in the construction sites. For example, we have one initiatives under our innovation lab for identity management using blockchain, where in a basic non-technical language, we put the identity of our executives, our employees into a blockchain. I just want to show you on this story how important is the regulation, because I have to cancel these projects after we have really invested time and effort because of my compliance department. Right, there is a IPP, identity, personal information put in a public blockchain, and
that's against GDPR.
Yes,
okay.
But there is another issues, because it's not just about data privacy. In GDPR, it says the right to be forgotten. So if I put any data in blockchain, that's break that rule, the right to be forgotten, because it's immutable. It's like, that's one. Data residency is another issue. So I operate in different part of the world, and if I'm putting a Saudi data in a blockchain, which is, it's a distributed, it's not in particular data center or particular server, so I'm breaking the data residency. Another one, which is data retention. So I have to keep the data for a particular period, right? And for construction or contracting data, each type of data categorization has a particular period. The data portability, another issue. So in GDPR, there is a right of data portability, while blockchain doesn't allow that, because once the data is in the blockchain, it's there forever. So that's part of the issues. When you are designing any solution, you have to keep all of this in mind. Now, VARA and like the Dubai Chamber, for example, they are now working on a new regulation that take care of all of that, because they put, for example, a ambitious target called Cloud First, to move 70% of the government data to the cloud, and that's break all of the golden rule of GDPR.
Gotcha. So I think for Jürgen and Sergi, what about this regulation question, and whether you actually ever interact with it or have to deal with it?
So I go. Yeah. So for us, we certify recovery entities.
What's a recovery entity?
A recovery entity is an entity that works with a lot of waste, and particularly
so like
with
a
plastic.
recycling place.
Yeah. So I say that because we have been certified to do that.
Okay. So certified to go to recovery entities, or certified as a recovery entity?
No, certified in order to certify recovery entities by an ICO.
So you can certify recovery entities.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can certify me.
No. So we can certify that the recovery entities are doing properly their job.
Gotcha.
Okay, good. So by this being said, so how we work is we allow them, after auditing them and of course certifying them, to have our software in order they can issue their own NFTs. So let's stop here. NFTs, another regulation, MiCA regulation. So yeah, we have a lot of things, as Ali was saying, to close this circle of regulations.
So it's not. It's on one side, it's like dealing with actually the regulations of the content that you're working with. So whether it be recycling or whether it's identity, right, GDPR. But then there's also the actual like technical infrastructure, like NFTs, right. Once you start minting or putting anything into an NFT, I don't know what the NFT regulations are in MiCA, but I'm presuming there are ones, right? So Jürgen, I'm curious, from your perspective, what are the different ways you're negotiating these, the regulation question?
To be honest, I'm not really the expert in this field. What we are experienced was we are also working with digital badges with certificates. And there's exactly what you said, and certificates for customers, for end users, when we want to put that into a blockchain scenario, but the end user has the right to delete, to transfer the data, and that makes it at the moment it's simply not possible to go on, and that stops us a little bit.
Do you think the problem is? I don't know. It's an interesting question. I mean, it's a philosophical question, and maybe not for supply chains, but it's almost like there's two different kind of worldviews that are at stake here. It's like the GDPR wants to create one type of form of data, and blockchains want to create a different type of way we're interacting with the data. And I guess maybe I don't necessarily see a way of reconciling blockchains with GDPR if the right to be forgotten, you can't. Like the entire thing, it's immutable, right?
I think the future will show us. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, what will survive, what will happen on the market is what really the right solution. Whether we're going to tie the hand with GDPR and we'll say, oh, the right to be forgotten means any employee, any supplier and subcontractor can come to me and said, well, delete all my records. I don't want to exist in your database anymore. And even with all traditional technology, not with supply chain, this is impossible because I have a daily backup. And for me, it's not practical to go all to my tape and my daily backup and delete a particular record. It's it's going to cost me hell of money, and it's not practical. Or an employee will come and said, well, I need practice my right of data portability, and I want to take all my data out of your database and go to work with another company. It just doesn't work. And I think the regulator have realized that. It's not just our feedback as a corporate, but even the regulator, as I said, the lawmaker have realized that in the ground, the practicality of these laws are not there.
Gotcha. So it's not even. So maybe they're envisioning. It would be it's a nice future, right? Like, you know, let's say there's something embarrassing I did in high school. You're not saying I did, but like, you know, there's an article about me, or there's something silly. There's probably articles that I've written that are bad, or I know there are articles that I've written that are bad, and like I want them to be, you know, to go away. And it would be nice to have some sort of control in that way, but. Perhaps that's just not technically feasible, is kind of what you're saying, with the current environment. I guess like one question as we're nearing kind of the end of the talk is like, what are you guys most excited for from the supply chain perspective in terms of using blockchain? Like things that you've heard about that are actually not happening right now that you think that could be super big game changers? And maybe I'll start with you again.
Sure. Yeah, from my side, I'm super inspired by the whole sustainability topic, to put that to make this real with blockchain-based supply chain scenarios. So we have one. I always talk about customers. Sorry for that, but we have one case where we have a problem where we have a problem again with green steel. So green steel is coming into the company, and they have to have our own storage for this green steel. And when they produce something, they only can use this green steel to produce to get through that whole thing. And then they have a different supply chain for their normal steel route. So what we are doing with them is we're creating a CO2, what we're calling a CO2 warehouse, so that you can say, the steel is going straight to one line, but at the end, what's going out is a certificate or a token, a CO2 token, based on the emissions that they had. So I hope that was understandable.
Basically, it's like it's
a mass balance system.
Your output at the end is essentially the aggregate amount of CO2.
Yeah, but the point is, you can't do that. Because if you want to do that, there is a huge set of rules you have to comply to, and you can't do that with a central system. You need the rules has to be open source. People has to see that. What are the rules? What's going on here to prevent greenwashing, and the rules have to be implemented in smart contracts to really be secure. There's no greenwashing. And when these things are coming and going on scale, that's what I love to see for the future.
Cool. Okay.
So for my side, it's not about surprising. It's about I'm happy to see big companies starting adding our methodology with them. So yeah, we have big clients. It's not about the names. It's about what they are trusting in blockchain for something. I mean, in that case, for sustainability. Football Club Barcelona, for example, is one is our first big client. It was our first big client. They wanted to prove that they are sustainable, and that was the best way to do it, because there is an immutable record. No, you have the chain custody of everything behind that, and yeah. So when it happened a year ago, I was really happy for it, and I'm still thinking about this. No, if big companies are trusting on us, it doesn't really matter if the retailer or the final consumer cares or not cares, because the big companies are the ones who runs the world, no? So,
what about democracy?
Yeah. I just want to highlight one point, that we are really focusing on very tiny function, and we are very early. We are in inception phase, I believe. And I believe when adaptation will come, it's not going to come only for supply chain. It's going to come for the whole functions. When supply chain will be there, adapting blockchain technology, I think the other functions also. So, for example, tokenizing the real-world asset, infrastructure tokenization. So when you put all these pieces together, it makes a lot of sense, you know. But taking supply chain alone and focusing on it with the current world, which is not in blockchain, I agree with you. It's look very futuristic. But if I'm talking about my HR is using blockchain, if I'm talking about my finance is using blockchain because it's decentralized. My blockchain is solving the problem of my cybersecurity because it's decentralized, right? Blockchain is solving the problem of my goodwill and donation. Blockchain is in the government. So then the supply chain will make sense with the entire whole holistic view of blockchain solving multiple problems in our life.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, the big takeaway, you know, with the last kind of minute or two that we have right now, that I was thinking about was that in some ways it's actually, you know, especially when you're talking about these more corporate adoption things, and this is what Sergi was talking about, Ali was talking about this, and I don't know if Jürgen actually brought this up or whether you glanced on it, was this idea of that, you know, at the end of the day, like what retail consumers have to say doesn't really matter. It's whether we're able to, whether, you know, corporations, you know, companies are able to convince actual big companies and the government to use blockchain tech, and that kind of seems a little bit like what you guys are saying. So I don't know if anyone has something to say, like for 30 seconds about that.
I just want to say, the first time, I think one time I was in Singapore and our board in Dubai called me, and they said the biggest health industry was hacked in UK, and we want you to tell us and make a presentation to us. Are we safe? So there were a threat, there were a really pressing need, there were, like, the whole board is worried. Have we done our job in terms of cybersecurity? Similarly, couple years ago, the board have asked me, we need to understand what is Bitcoin. So it's in the media, somebody called BlackRock have jumped to ETF.
I like that your like board's just like, hey, like I don't understand what Bitcoin is.
Right.
Just call
the CIO and can you make a presentation for us, few slides to tell us what is Bitcoin, gotcha. Right? And I think these kind of incidents show us how adaptation gonna work. You know, when something big happened, everybody wanna jump in and understand. Well, are we safe in terms of cybersecurity? Have we done our homework in terms of security measures? Similarly, I think blockchain gonna very soon we're gonna hear a lot of government, like what Dubai, for example, and Abu Dhabi are doing, what Saudi are doing, and similarly as a corporate. Many corporates are jumping in and are studying the feasibility of these technologies to solve real-life problems.
Cool. Well, and that's it for us. The clock has gone down to 0. So appreciate everyone listening to the panel. And there's a keynote after us, so hope you guys enjoyed that. And to that,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.